Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's the CHGO Cubs podcast presented by PointsBet. Use the promo code CHGO when you sign up to get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. It's a Friday, and we have another podcast for you. Corey Freedman's here, Cody Delmendo. I'm Luke Stuckmeyer, and it is Suzuki Day for Chicago Cubs fans. The Cubs officially introducing their big free agent outfielder that was signed this week, and he put on number 27 for the first time. We'll talk about that, why he chose 27, other 27s in Cubs history. Start thinking about it now because I might quiz you later. It's official. He passed his physical, and in Chicago these days, that's no big. That is a pretty big deal. You got to pass the physical before the contract is official. He gets a signing bonus, which we originally didn't know about the contract. A $7 million salary this year, a $5 million signing bonus, and an average of $17 million a season. Some interesting tweets went out. It was cool to see him put on that Cubs jersey for the first time, and I know Cubs fans will be obviously excited to see him play for the first time. My first impression was, this dude's pretty big. Pretty big. He's built. He's not just like a tiny little skinny guy out there. Like he's muscular.
Well, and he made a joke that he needed to get in the weight room already because
really?
MLB players are bigger. But he's a big dude.
I mean, not so much in that picture, but I think some of the other ones that when I saw him walk in, I was like, this guy works out.
You can see where the power in the bat comes from. Yeah.
Some of the other photos. There's the number 27. He said he was asked in the press conference, 27, why? And he's like, Mike Trout. And then he looked directly into the camera, I love you.
He's doing he's doing more to promote Mike Trout in the game of baseball, on his first day in the MLB than the MLB does generally.
It's the most Mike Trout's been promoted this season, was Seiya Suzuki saying, I love you. And it went worldwide.
Yeah. I love that. Just that line itself, it kind of shows like his personality.
Agreed.
And that's important, especially because he's coming from Japan and obviously is the translator and everything. And, from my memory, I remember when Yu Darvish was first introduced with the Cubs and, obviously the injuries and stuff throughout 2018 didn't help him. And there was a lot of talk about, whether he cared and all this. And if people called him soft, that's still some of the dumbest things I've ever heard. But, yeah, he went through some stuff because he had to use a translator, and a lot of people didn't really understand him. So, to start off this way, I feel like is a great start for him moving forward with the Cubs, and I'm excited, man. Like he looks great in the Cubs jersey. There's something about it. Some guys just click. Like when Marcus Stroman put on that jersey, it looked nice. I feel like the same way with him.
I would love to see now that it's done, I would love to see the video they used to try and draw him in to sign with the Cubs. I always want to see what was put together to try and excite a free agent to be like, this is where you want to go, no matter what the sport is, and you never get to see them. It was interesting. Nick Madrigal was in on the pitch.
Same agent.
Right? So, it's just interesting to see who might be in on the different and who put it together.
That was least likely. I would have never thought that.
No, I never would have guessed. Nick Madrigal would be helping draw Seiya Suzuki to the Cubs.
When Nick has, he's been in the organization, but he hasn't really experienced being a Cub. But hey, Nick, we appreciate.
Sources say the Cubs have now won the trade. Sources say, at least.
What else? Other impressions from that? I do think we're starting to see some Cubs players tweet about it a little bit. People are excited to see him, and now we don't know what type of player he's going to be. That's kind of the crazy thing is we just don't know if he's going to be an all-star like he was in Japan. The money says that's what the Cubs believe they're going to get.
Yeah.
And, how long before you see that? He did point out in his press conference that he has relied on Yu Darvish to talk about things like how do you adjust to Major League Baseball? How do you adjust to the American lifestyle? You mentioned he said he's going to have to get a little bulked up because he says the players, but that is a big part of coming over from Japan and adjusting to Major League Baseball. It's just adjusting to the culture, too.
Well, and major kudos to you, Darvish, for the positive pitch. I think he probably also talked about the Padres, where you is now. But you know, as you kind of mentioned, the beginning of his time in Chicago was tough for you. So he certainly didn't have to say nice things about the Cubs or their fans, but he said the fans are great, city's great, the organization's great. So like Nick Madrigal, we got some people doing some recruiting for us. But, you know, as you went through the process, you know, he really spent a lot of time learning English, sort of for the purpose that Cody was bringing up. You know, he wanted to connect with the fans more and be able to kind of speak to them directly. And, you know, that's up to Seiya if he wants to do. And, you know, it's difficult. Any time a player is coming from a different country and moving to a new city, their family's moving, you're adapting to a completely different culture. And, you know, of course, you're signing this contract without, you know, he's never lived in Chicago. I don't know if he visited throughout this process or not. It's tough. But
and he's coming into a major market too. Like this isn't like he's going to like Colorado. He's going to Chicago, where, let's be real, the Chicago media can be tough.
Yeah. Right. No offense to our friends at DNVR. Of course.
Yeah, no offense. Yeah. I feel like I've been saying a lot of things that the guys at DMVR could like get really mad at me about, because I had that video about Chris Bryant, the Rockies, and then like I think a day before that I tweeted something about the Rockies or something, and one of the guys from DMVR like replied to it, and I haven't met that person yet, so like
no worries, man. They got Russell Wilson. They have no more problems in their life. That's all they cared about.
But I mean, like, my main impression from today was it was good, because we didn't really get like an official Stroman like press conference because of the timing of that and then the lockout. It was we will continue to debate the Cubs roster construction and their plans for 2022 and beyond, but it was nice to just. The Cubs got a big player. Oh, yeah. They signed a big name. They signed a player that a lot of teams were after, and they had to pitch and convince to come play in Chicago. And it was cool to just have a nice, like, this guy wants to be a Cub, putting on the jersey, like just that kind of moment today.
That's no small thing when you consider the fact that the Cubs are not coming off one of their best seasons. They just traded away their core players. Somehow they convinced the best position player in Japan that was coming over, one of the top free agents, this is where he wanted to sign. He could choose any team in Major League Baseball to sign with, because most teams would have at least been interested and wanted to have the conversation. He chose the Cubs. He saw something in them that he wanted to go to. And I think back to, you know, being in the clubhouse when Kosuke Fukudome came over from the Cubs, and I saw one picture on Twitter that was zoomed back a little bit just of the press room at Sloan Park today, and you saw Suzuki in the front with Jed, and in the background, you know, normally at this time of year you'd have 2 or 3 cameras there. You might have the local TV station still there at this point, maybe. They usually leave when the games start, so maybe you just have like your rights owner there, or 1 or 2 cameras. It was a room full of cameras and camera people and reporters, and the majority of them were Japanese media. And that was so interesting. When Kosuke came, he had a contingent, he had a group of reporters that followed him for at least 2 seasons. Every day, every game, they interviewed him before the game. They interviewed him after the game. They interviewed him on days he didn't play. He literally had like his own personal group of reporters from Japan, because people in Japan are so interested to see how these guys do when they get to America and play in Major League Baseball. And I would assume that's going to continue right here with Suzuki and with Ohtani here. You know, that when he comes and plays in different games and different years and stuff, it's just fascinating to see the way the two cultures mix and how big baseball is also in Japan. No matter whether that player listen, it'd be like Mike Trout going over and playing in Japan right now. Would we cover it? Not for very long, we wouldn't. But the Japanese culture is so loyal, and the fan base is so loyal that they will follow that player halfway around the world to see what he's still doing, even for a team that they aren't rooting for. So I think that's really kind of
be interesting when the Padres come to Wrigley.
Yes.
So
it's a great way to grow the game, and to build that international market and just create that kind of like cross interest. And like you said, just a lot of people just rooting for Seiya the person, like you said, they may not care about the Cubs, but they're rooting for Seiya the person and hoping for his success.
What excites you most about him coming to the Cubs?
I think it's, we talked about the profile, the ability to hit homers, the seasons where he's putting up near identical strikeout rate and walk rate. Like, that's obviously something the Cubs have been looking for after having so many guys with high K rates and stuff like that. But I think it's the potential for him. It's where he is in his career. He's only going to be 27 for the majority of this season. Like, that's a guy that's, he can be entering some of his prime years here. A lot of times guys come over, they're on the older side, and you don't kind of get to see them maybe grow into who they are as a player. And so I think, as we said, it's a tough adjustment, new pitching, new league, new country. Like, there's a lot that is very tough, and I'm certainly not strong enough to deal with it myself. But from a baseball perspective, just a ton of talent, and you have that age potential. And Jed said it today, his thing, right? The next great Cubs team. We're going to hear that phrase, I think, until they show up, and we don't know when that's going to be. But he pointed out, like, the big thing for us is that, he's 27, you got that 5-year deal, but should be a part of that. Whenever that next great Cubs team is, Seiya Suzuki should be, hopefully, a leading member of that team.
CJ says a bunch of cameras except for Marquee Network. We don't know why it wasn't live on Marquee, but I know we were looking for it.
Yeah. They had a lot of people were looking for it.
I mean, I tweeted out.
There's got to be a reason, I would think, but
tweeted
I don't know what it is.
A link to the Cubs YouTube page because they had it set up kind of like how we have our video set up, like a premiere to let people know, oh, hey, we're going live in 15, 20 minutes or whatever. Like, the Cubs had that set up, and then with like just a few minutes left, they privatized the video, and it became unavailable on YouTube.
I saw a tweet that it is back now.
It is now available. Posted 12,
now it's available.
12
but it wasn't
minutes
available
ago.
live.
No, 12 minutes ago, posted Cubs Twitter. Check it out, Cubs fans.
On Cubs
After
Twitter.
the show.
Do not leave the
right.
show.
Yeah.
So you guys ready for, can we name other 27s in Cubs history? There have been a bunch of recent guys to wear 27. Most recent was Zach Davies. For that, Jason Kipnis and Addison Russell.
We don't have to talk about a lot of these guys.
Jeremy Roenick said from the back row. Austin Jackson, the great, who could forget the Taylor Teagarden era?
Austin Jackson had some good moments for the Cubs in his time in 2015. Yeah, a couple good moments there.
Yeah.
The farther back you go,
Sam Fold.
I would say the better. Yeah, the 27s get a little bit better. Sam Fold made some great catches.
Yeah.
Joe Girardi wore it, 01-02. Corey Patterson wore it for one season,
Hello,
2000.
Corey.
Here's a name for all the old people out there. One of my first Cubs that I was a fan of, Mike Vail, who was a pinch hitter who hit home runs occasionally. And as a kid from 78 to 80, I thought Mike Vail was going to be a star. He never became a star, but he was the guy that you would cry for to be a pinch hitter when the game was on the line and the Cubs were about to lose. You were hoping Mike Vail was going to get up to the plate. Good old number 27.
Yeah.
So
Addison Russell for 1 year.
He could, in one season, he could be the best 27 to ever put on a Cubs uniform.
At least in recent memory.
In recent memory, for sure. I mean, it's not
pretty low.
Listen, it's not a Hall of Fame list.
No, definitely.
I didn't go through the whole list. There might be some super, super old time number 27s if somebody wants to do that, but I haven't seen or thought of a superstar 27 that wore that for the Cubs.
And of course, he's wearing it for Trout, who is not.
Right, right. Well, he's going to be the National League Mike Trout, is what we're saying.
But good that the number was available. He didn't have to, offer anybody a car or a watch or anything.
No, that's true.
Part of that signing bonus for that.
Manuel says, how likely is it for the Cubs to take on Hosmer's money in exchange for quality prospects and then use those prospects to acquire Sean Manaea from the A's? I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that exact scenario is not super likely.
I don't think so either.
That's a very specific set of points.
I liked how it was.
Manuel,
first,
what do you know that
he's
we
got
don't?
a whole.
The first half they had me, like you know that gif or that meme. Like in the first half you had me or had us or whatever.
It just seems like two totally different
Well-
trains of thought. Let's trade and get a bunch of young guys, and then let's go trade those young guys for an aging pitcher.
So
Yeah.
The Padres did get Luke Voit
Yes.
from the Yankees. So Rizzo goes to the Yankees, kind of left Luke Voit without a specific position. That's been kind of weird since the trade deadline. Those quotes were super weird. Like Luke Voit was like, well, I wanted to be here and play here, but I guess not.
Right.
And he's not that bad of a player.
No,
either.
he's good. And but anyway, so that kind of reopened that like maybe, and there was like, they said they talked to Hosmer today and he's all in on whatever they want to do. He just wants to win, but that's been out there. I'm for that. Hosmer is not great. It would be kind of another dead money deal, but whatever. If they're willing to offer up some of their top prospects, someone like Hassel, the outfielder, Terrence Gore.
We said give us a top 50
like
Mackenzie
Major
Gore
League
is what you're
prospect.
talking
I'm listening.
Mackenzie Gore. Yeah.
You said
Yeah.
Terrence
Terrence
Gore,
Gore.
You know what?
The base stealer.
Yeah.
Two in the
Well,
top
not
one.
Terrence
Two in the
Gore.
top 100.
Yeah. Mackenzie Gore. Yeah.
Two in the top 100 or one in the top 50, and I'm listening.
And
Yeah.
like you deal with Hosmer, and that it doesn't affect your 2022 too much anyway.
The thing against Hosmer, the only thing that really sticks out is like he's just beating the ball into the ground, and like his contact or hard contact rate is just not there, and that's not what you want from first base. But he's a proven winner, and he'd be a great veteran piece at least. And
it's just not. It's not about him. You're,
Right.
you're,
No,
you're
really,
taking
yeah.
the money to get a
But change of
big
scenery,
time
change of
prospect.
scenery.
It could be a
works.
bucket of baseballs for all you
like,
care, as long as it came
yeah.
with the top
you
prospect.
mix him with Frank and figure out first base, and how that goes is not really the main point.
No.
You'd be getting a piece again to go
Right.
back to the next great Cubs team.
Yes.
that would kind of vault pretty quickly up those top prospect lists.
I was just mentioning, the few positives because again, yes, the Cubs are retooling, rebuilding, whatever, but it's not like we would be getting a player that we don't know what we'd be getting at all. Like he has a history of success. Change of scenery sometimes works. Is he making way too much money for what he's producing? For sure. But,
Yeah. So we appreciate Manuel jumping in with that. Also, Rachel points out the first guy to ever wear 27 only played one game. It was Bobo Newsome.
What a
Who
name.
could forget that era
Yeah.
in Cubs history?
Yeah.
The Bobo.
I don't think I've ever heard that name before.
Bozo era we had a long time
Yeah.
here in Chicago.
I'm going to get a personalized jersey with that now.
All right, let's move on because we're talking about the Hosmer deal, and saw a lot of reports on Twitter over the last 24 hours saying that those Carlos Correa talks have stalled with the Astros, to which I shrugged my shoulders and said, well, that probably doesn't matter because the Cubs aren't going to get in on this. And on the other hand, the guy sitting next to me in the hoodie was like, Cody was probably like, so you're saying there's a chance?
Yeah, baby. I'm ready to be hurt again. Like
Start up the conversation, Jed.
This has been the whole thing about the whole Carlos Correa situation. It's if it was so black and white, he would have already signed with the Astros or the Dodgers or whoever it is, the Yankees that they were in talks.
The Dodgers don't even need him.
Yeah, the Dodgers. I don't know why I mentioned
I think they're going to be okay this year.
right.
Don't give him any ideas.
You
Yeah,
get what I'm
they'll
saying.
do it.
But he's still there, and it's like I feel like Jed just kind of waiting it out. I feel like I don't know. That's my optimism for Cubs fans out there who think this is dead.
So Cody and I were talking about this before we jumped on, that if he had signed a 10-year, $350 million deal with the Yankees, I would have said, great player. I would like the Cubs to have been in, but I understand that Jed kind of has his limits. It is what it is. This market is playing out exactly as the Cubs would want, right? The
Look
big
at
players.
Corey getting excited over here.
No, I'm with
He
Cody.
just sat up in the chair just a little bit like, ooh.
I'm
wait a minute.
prepared to be like way more hurt and angry than I probably would have been in that other scenario because this is what Jed was talking about.
Yeah,
I am ready to be hurt. Yes, thank you, SpongeBob. Like, this is playing out. It's a slow developing market. A lot of the big teams are out, and Jed, that's what he talked about. Smart deals, things that kind of come to us. This feels like it's coming to him. And
So what's a smart deal? It has to be under 300 for the Cubs? If you're seriously considering it for the Cubs, does it have to be a smart deal? Does somehow Correa have to slide under 300?
I think it's the years. I think it's the years. Agreed. I think they're willing to pay the money considering where the franchise is at.
They have the space.
With all this Suzuki, flexible payroll. Yeah, like they totally. I think they want to move it to like 7 or 8 years more so than 10.
And I don't know how they they gave Stroman the opt-outs. Like, obviously Suzuki has a no trade clause. That makes a lot more sense.
Sure.
So I think they'd be willing to offer things up. It just the at least reporting now is that like Baltimore is playing the role of,
come on,
we're
you
not
go play for
a
Baltimore?
particularly
well, Chris Bryant went to the Rockies.
Great destination. But we're going to give you whatever contract you want, right? Like, that offer seems to be there. Does he want to go to Baltimore, though? Then I guess you would hope the competition is the Cubs saying, look, we're not going to do that, but let's get creative here because we want you in Chicago. We'll pay you the money, at least in the short term. And
money does talk.
It does.
That's how Chris Bryant ended up with the Rockies. Correa has also won a World Series like Chris Bryant, so maybe it's a little more important to go get that cash. You've won it, but I still think there's a shot. I'm not saying I'm not as optimistic about this as maybe I think the two of you are about this, but let's just say this. Let's discuss why they should do it if you're the Cubs. Where does he rank in terms of shortstops in Major League Baseball? Maybe the deepest position in all of baseball. And we were talking about this before the podcast a little bit, and I was saying, listen, they didn't sign Javi Baez. And when you go through the list of shortstops in Major League Baseball, Javi is not a top 10 shortstop in Major League Baseball because the list is so good. Where would you put Correa in Major League shortstops? I'm going to throw out just some names. You tell me he's higher or lower. Fernando Tatis.
Lower.
Correa's lower.
I think he's higher because he stays off of motorcycles.
Oh, well, okay.
He'll be playing on opening
day.
An
an argument.
He stays
long-term
he's definitely
lower,
healthier.
But yeah.
Higher or lower than, is he higher or lower than Bo Bichette?
Probably higher, but Bo is young. You never
Bo
know.
Bichette has a really high
he's great.
ceiling.
Yeah,
really high.
Francisco Lindor.
Higher.
At this point, he's higher than Lindor. Tim Anderson on the south side.
I mean, I think Correa's higher, but Tim is great. I'm occupying the role of I'm looking at a Fangraphs WAR chart right now. And
hit us with it.
He would be number 3 behind Trey Turner and Fernando Tatis. But again, Fernando Tatis has shoulder problems that was lingering all of last year, and I think in 2022.
He only played like 130 games.
And now he's going to miss, I think it's a few months of this season. Yeah. So, guys don't often control injuries.
Right.
I mean, obviously he was sort of, he probably shouldn't be riding a motorcycle after signing that large of a deal.
Right.
But injuries happen. I'm not a big, that guy's injury-prone kind of guy.
Right.
But he has been injured a lot. Correa has his own injury things. So, you never know with this stuff. But I'm going to look at the WAR number. That's just the easiest way for me to do it. He would be number 3.
Yeah, we were looking at some of them, the WRC Plus, and Brandon Crawford's up there, but obviously much older.
Right.
Xander Bogaerts, Corey Seager, Trevor Story.
It's a deep position.
I mean, Javi's not even top 12 probably.
In terms of those advanced metrics now.
Yes, and that's another reason, again, diehard Cub fans and that fell in love with the 2016 team like every Cubs fan did. Some are, upset that he's not here, and he was offered a deal, and he got a deal with Detroit now. But when you look at it and you look at the depth of that position, it's a lot to pay for a guy that would have slotted in somewhere in the middle of Major League Baseball at that position. Now, currently where they're at, they're going to be lower than where Javi Baez was.
That's the key.
For sure.
I think
right now.
If they don't address this position, that's why we keep talking about this. There may be people that are like, why are they so obsessed with Correa or Trevor Story or this? Because the Andrelton Simmons is not an MLB everyday starting shortstop at this point, or at least for a team that's serious about even loosely being competitive. And you have sort of a top tier guy that is available, and like we said, the market is kind of working in your favor. It would be a different discussion if we're hearing the Yankees and the Red Sox are trading 12-year offers and upping the bonus. Like, that's not happening. It's quiet. So I hope Jed's on the phone. To me, the reason that I think I'm focused on this is when I look back at what Jed has been saying this whole time, right? Being competitive in 2022, but not kind of mortgaging that long-term future. The next great Cubs team is a few years away. Mm-hmm. But we're going to spend money, and we're going to try to be competitive. They've spent some money. They signed, arguably the top pitcher on the market. They signed the top international guy on the market, one of the biggest contracts for a Japanese player in league history. So they're checking a few of those boxes. Are they competitive in 2022 right now? That one I think is still unchecked. They're getting there. Bullpen, a lot of additions. Like, they've spent money. They made some good moves. But I don't think we're there yet. There's people out there that could get us there.
I think you do have to give Jed and the Cubs credit for doing what they said they were going to do. We now believe that they did make offers to the core guys that they felt were fair, and it appears the way it's playing out from reports, those were fair offers. Then when that didn't happen, they said, don't panic. We are going to compete, like you said. This is not a full rebuild. We're going to be competitive, and we're building the next team. So I would look at it and say, outside of, even if they don't sign Correa, are they in a better position today, moving forward, closer to winning the World Series now than they would have been if they would have just re-signed 3 of those guys? And my answer is yes, as much as that hurts to say, because if you re-sign those guys, you haven't restocked your farm system, which was down to almost nothing. Now you have a farm system that's building, growing quickly, and you can still go spend that money. It's just not going to be on the guys that you want it to have there. Yeah. So, like, for instance, if Correa comes in, you're starting to build a nice core, and then you will have the farm system start to feed it. If you did it the other way, you would have had that core getting older and no farm system after that. You would have only been able to build through spending money, like
supplementing.
And sooner or later, those are bad deals.
One which they didn't really do over the years. So
no, correct.
We saw how that worked.
So I look at the Correa deal and I say, well, how could you make it work for him? What if, as we were saying, we get him to accept less years, but a ton of money, and you front load that deal? You've got the cap space right now to give him almost whatever he wants per season. It doesn't matter because you're probably not winning the World Series. You're going to win some games and be competitive. So you're not going to need to add at the trade deadline tons of players. Go ahead, spend the cash. Easy to say. It's not my money. And then in 3 years, 4 years, maybe even just 3 years, Christian Hernandez is ready. Ed Howard's ready. If you don't think you can afford to have him on that team, which you should be able to because those guys are going to be cheaper, you can always still take that productive Carlos Correa, and he's very easy to trade with a contract that was front-loaded, and now the end of his career is not nearly as expensive.
I'm sure that's what they're looking at.
That's what they've got to be pitching to him, right? And
again, the same as with the options, where it's like, look, we for sure want you here for, say, 2-3 years, whatever it is. If you want to opt out after that, we'll give you the option. You can hit free agency again. He would only be probably 30, 31. We just saw a bunch of guys make a ton of money at around that age, right? I think that is what the Cubs want. Correa probably wants something massive, but if the only offer like that is coming from Baltimore, is that
worth it?
More interesting than playing for the Cubs? And I think even in the long term, Correa should age, I think, pretty well, the skills that he has. And, if Christian Hernandez is ready to go at short, or Ed Howard or Reggie Preciado, like, you can move Correa to third. I think he'd be a great third baseman. Like, you can we've had the too many shortstops conversation before,
Yeah.
right? With Baez, Russell, Torres, when they were all.
It's a good position to stockpile.
You worry about that later because the Cubs
Yes.
didn't really face that problem, but everybody worried about it at the time. Like when we'll deal with that when they're all knocking at the door at the exact same time.
Back to your question on whether would the Cubs be better off if they had extended Rizzo, Bryant, Baez?
Right. And I'm not talking about one. I'm saying like extend the whole core except for maybe one.
Yeah. Now, there's many obstacles into that because it's like, when do they extend it? Like, if they were able to do it earlier, like for Brian, if they would have been able to do it after 2016, you're looking at that contract and you're like, you're getting a steal because according to alleged reports, it was over $200 million at the time. And you look at contracts players are getting now and you're like, wow, like if that would have been able to go through, you're like, great, that's awesome. You know, if Baez signs out $180 million, you know, I feel like the Cubs would still be okay. Rizzo, you know, I guess they were just living off that contract that he got earlier, that it's like you don't really know. But like in my eyes, like it depends on when they would have been able to extend them. Now, if they had tried to extend them all before last season, then yeah, we're probably not going to be in a better spot in 5 years than now, considering the potential for prospects, the financial flexibility that the organization has. There's just a lot of like what ifs in that. But for sure, like right now, the way that it's looked at, like I would say that, yeah, we have a much better shot if we had only extended one.
In the future, we have a better shot.
I
2 years
think
from now.
Like most of us are not necessarily pleased to be in this specific spot again.
Correct.
Right?
For
but
sure.
this is the path that they're on, and I think with what they're doing a good job of it.
Right.
Yeah, you're
If
in
that
this
makes
spot
sense.
because some of the core players didn't develop beyond where they were the way they thought they were going to.
Exactly.
And number two, and maybe more importantly, they were not able to develop arms.
Right.
Yeah.
They weren't able to develop their own pitching.
And you know, the thing that's going to get people is you didn't supplement at the times where you should have supplemented, right?
Yeah.
Like there were a
from
couple
2019
times,
and
2018, 2019, like especially 2019 was a team where it was like, this can be a solid team. The pitching staff needs help. The bullpen needs help. And they just didn't do it. And it, you know.
The biggest thing they did in 2019 was trade for Nick Castellanos, which turned out to be huge, but, you know, things faded down the stretch because
But
of
signing
the
Castellanos
bullpen.
right now would not be like signing Carlos Correa. They're not that's not an apples to apples argument. Correa is a prime position in Major League Baseball, a five tool player. Like I mean, he's
27 years
yeah,
old.
I mean, that's the guy. If you're going to spend the money, that's the guy. Not that I wouldn't want Castellanos.
It's about
I'm
the
just saying.
picks too. Like
Yeah.
the remaining free agents have picks attached to them. You can feel about that the way you do, but I don't think they're going to give it up unless it's for Correa.
I noticed.
I have a
Peter-
question. I have a
Yeah.
question. When you're talking about how the core of the team, obviously it's massively disappointing. We all know that, especially when you look back at a time when we thought, you know, the ESPN wrote this article, dynasty rankings going forward. The Cubs there was a bigger difference between the 1 and the 2, which was the Dodgers at the time, than like the 2 and the 10. Like they were set. And I think Luke nailed it. The lack of ability to develop pitching killed us. But like, did anyone ever feel as confident about the offense as they did in that 2016 and I guess at times 2017 season? Like, no matter what metric you use, runners in scoring position, team batting average, they never replaced the leadoff production, but the production just wasn't there, even from the core guys. It was never the same.
It fell off, and I think the biggest thing for me that always stood out, I remember I went to game 163 against the Brewers in 2018,
Yeah.
Just
and
a
then
brutal day.
That was
wild
sort of
card
the
game.
signal of like, uh-oh.
when I went to that wild
Right?
card game, and I remember watching that wild card game, and I turned to my friend Ryan, who I went to the game with, and whatever inning it was, I was like, dude, I legitimately can't believe they're not going to score.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if that makes me an idiot or what, but
Oh,
I
yeah.
can't believe this is happening. Like, that
Right.
they cannot get hits,
Right.
and they're going to score, what was it, 2 runs in the 2 games, whatever it
Yeah.
ended up being.
Hasn't that been the story of every like postseason
I
game
couldn't
since?
believe it.
Like, no runs.
Yeah.
I do want to point out Peter on here on the chat says, I've heard the Cubs offered of Correa is currently, I think that says $250, heavy money in the first 2 years. Peter, is there any chance you're Jed Hoyer's burner account? That's just what or is your last name Ricketts? We want to know.
Yeah.
I just want to know your background, Peter. Listen, I have no idea if that's true or not. I hope you're in the know and that it's higher than that.
I did.
And that he's closer, because I don't think 250 gets it done.
No.
Depends. I mean, it depends how many years we're talking, you know?
Yeah.
3 years, 250.
I see.
Jed wants
How
it
much
bad.
would you be willing to pay him a year?
It's not my money.
Right.
I mean, look, they have a ton of space. If we're using the luxury tax as the cutoff, that they're absolutely not going to go over, which in 2022 they're not going to.
No need to. I would agree with that.
They have a ton of space. I mean,
I'd pay
you
him
could
35.
get crazy. Yeah,
I would
pay
pay
him
him
$35 million a year right now, even though you know you're not going to win the World Series.
You gotta. This is.
But it is going to draw fans back into the ballpark.
You have
100%.
to make the
Jersey
offer.
sales, number 2.
Yes.
I appreciate that Jed has his limits, right? And I understand why that is. We joked the other day that it seems like every time you look at Jason Hayward's contract, it just gets longer, right? So there's examples of this stuff like not working, but sometimes you have to make the offer to get the player.
If there's not just examples of it not working, historically, almost every 10-year contract, 300, 250, 300, almost every single one, the team looks back and says, we got fleeced. I think the biggest
It's disappearing from
outlier
baseball
is
for that
Max
reason.
Scherzer. Scherzer was a great contract. He lived up to every penny. But look at Pujols. Look at the old ones, Prince Fielder, Jason Worth, right? And then you have the year where Bryce Harper and Machado don't sign until March because there's hesitancy about that stuff.
We talked about Fernando Tatis. I'm sure that he's a great player. I hope it doesn't come across. I'm not like trying to drag him for getting hurt. But, he signed a massive, massive contract and is going to miss the first 3 months of the season for something he was doing in the offseason. That's like just sort of the risk. And you're like, okay, well, this is kind of a huge commitment for us.
The difference between Correa and those contracts that Joey mentioned was he's 27 and Pujols was like 30, 31, Fielder same way. Like those contracts were made literally over a decade ago now. Like, the Harper and Machado contracts, I don't think those teams are regretting those right now.
It's still early, but yes, you're right. Those guys are hitting free agency much earlier than in the past. Guys had been coming in and getting these massive contracts.
Their franchise is also making a lot of money because they have that star player. In merchandise sales, ticket sales, beer sales, all those things. That does come back to you, and we just don't know how much. Revenue from TV stations, all of those things.
Another thing that Correa would bring, too, is just some hope, some actual trust from the fan base,
right? Like the Last Jedi type thing. Like
you said, it would bring fans to the ballpark. But again,
nobody likes Star Wars.
I'm a Baby Yoda guy.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I'm not a big Star Wars guy, admittedly. Please do not roast me online. Please do not do that. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I feel like it would just bring fans to the ballpark. It would get people reinvested because there's just like a lot of tension in the Cubs fan base right now. That's like, I've seen a lot of things online about how people are saying no to season tickets because they're actually I saw someone the other day, they were on the list for 13 years, said no because they just don't believe in what the direction of the organization right now.
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, Peter says he has friends in the organization. I might know who Peter is. 258 years. Boy, I hope you're right, Peter.
Wow.
Cody and I are all in.
I'm all in.
And
I really
do
don't.
see it.
Just
when there's tweets about single game tickets being available, all that other stuff. The sentiment is still no.
Yeah.
Why?
You just go read the
thanks.
replies on Twitter or even Facebook. I'm sure you can just it's something that I never thought I would see.
Now he's yanking our chain. He says, "I really don't." Ha ha. They just.
They just claimed that we were
there
heavily in
there
the
it is.
2 days ago.
After the
first time we've had our chain
Quintana trade broke on Reddit, right?
Oh yeah, never forget.
And what is it, wet butt?
Yeah,
right?
Wet butt booty hole or something like that.
You have to take everything.
Oh, I believe his name is Peter
seriously,
Wetbutt.
right? You don't have to believe
offense,
everything,
Peter.
but you can't immediately write anything off anymore. Like you never know where this is coming from.
I forgot about Wetbutt.
If I had MLB sources, I wouldn't share the news under my real name.
Everybody had to say, as the story was first broken by Wetbutt.
Got to give proper credit.
So I don't know what the odds are, but I do know that we've had a very long first segment here. So that leads me into thinking, Cody, we should talk about our sponsor here because they're really helping us out.
Yeah, PointsBet. I've been getting in all my March Madness bets in. I know Luke is excited to make a weekend one. Like he does one every.
I might have one now. Yeah.
Yeah. We were talking about it earlier. And again, it's a great time to get on PointsBet, which is the best way to support CHGO, is to download the PointsBet app and use code CHGO when you sign up. If you do that right now, you'll get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. But that's not it, Luke. If you make $50 or more, or if you make a $50 or more first-time deposit, you'll receive a free CHGO membership, which unlocks all of our web content. That's content from Ryan, Jared, Brendan. Am I missing anyone? Is that it?
Well, and the reason Ryan's not here is because he's in the clubhouse right now getting locker room sound.
Yeah,
before,
exactly.
So he'll have that content for you up tonight.
Yeah. And so you'll get that, and you'll even get a free shirt of your choice from the CHGO locker. That's $2,000 in free bets, a free CHGO membership, and a free T-shirt from the CHGO locker. All for making a $50 first-time deposit at PointsBet. If you have any questions, you can email pointsbet@allchgo.com, and we'll help you out. Your home for live in-play betting just got even better. Introducing PointsBet's new feature, Live College Basketball Same-Game Parlay. For the first time ever, you can build the perfect live same-game parlay only with PointsBet. Combine your favorite bets anytime during the game. Want more? You can also boost your live same-game parlays. I love doing that. I do it every Bulls game. I love to boost them. Watch live, parlay live, and boost live with PointsBet. And there's more. Online sign-up is available now in Illinois. You can download the PointsBet app right now and register your account from start to finish, all from your phone. Plus, during PointsBet Match Madness, all users can earn up to $100 in free bets during each round. Just place a $50 pregame wager and get a free $20 live bet to be used for that round. So what are you waiting for? I know I'm not waiting. Once the game starts, don't just bet. Live your bet life with PointsBet. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700.
Thank you for all the support to everybody's that's, we're 2 weeks today.
Yeah.
And it's been great support from Cubs fans, Blackhawks fans, Sox fans, Bulls fans, everybody into Sky fans. Great support. We see it. We love it. We hope you're enjoying it. CHGO, we're trying to give you podcasts and live shows for every team, every day. Post-game shows after every game, the premium written content for members. To get that, you got to go to allchgo.com and join up for that membership. And that's where you also will find all the dope merch for all our teams, free shirts. I shouldn't say plural. A free shirt when you become a member. And you also can get the members-only Discord, the CHGO Lounge, which is where we are working on that velvet robe for everybody that gets to be a member. I'm trying to see if that will get pushed through by corporate.
Me and Luke
so far,
need one. We both need one to do Cubs post-game shows.
It'd be cool if we all sat here after every win and we would just throw on a velvet robe.
Oh, my God.
Just doing a velvet robe.
The vibes would just be incredible, honestly.
We wear shorts underneath, but just to tease everybody, they wouldn't quite know. They'd just see the velvet robe and slippers. It's an idea.
Exactly.
All right, let's move on. So we were talking about the future. We touched on this a little bit, talking about Carlos Correa and why we all believe the Cubs should still be pushing their chips in and at least forcing him to make a choice between the Cubs and somebody else. Push the envelope a little bit. Now, the next wave of players, some are coming quickly, some are further behind. And MLB Pipeline put out their top 100 yesterday. A couple years ago, nobody would have been on this list. Now you look at it, Brendan Davis is up to number 15. We assume he's going to be on the Major League roster before 4th of July, right?
Yeah, I would. Yeah.
We'd expect that unless something happens, knock on wood, he'll be on the Major League roster at least by the 4th of July. Number 15 in the MLB pipeline right now in all of Major League Baseball. And then here's a guy, a shortstop, that they say, I've heard the comparison of A-Rod, which... Wow, you should not throw that around unless you mean it when you're talking about baseball skill. Forget all the other stuff, J-Lo, all that nonsense. They're comparing him to the baseball player. Christian Hernandez He's now number 92. He's only 18 years old. That's one of the guys you're excited about. Brennan Davis, that's another guy you're excited about. And that's why, maybe Christian Hernandez is the guy in 3-4 years that gets Correa to move to a different position, that gets Correa potentially traded to restock the farm system or get you, something else, another starter. It's not as simple as just saying you have the guy for 8 years. If you can work in different ways in a contract. Does this excite you, seeing that Brennan Davis is up to number 15?
Of course. Yeah. I mean, no, I think there's a lot of names when you look at Cubs prospects, and as we know, some of them are 18, 19 years old, so they're not going to be, breaking down the door at Wrigley soon. But Brennan, I mean, I don't know the exact date, but I think we definitely at least see him this year.
Is it a hot take for me to believe or to want him to just be on the opening day roster?
I think that they probably want him to get some more experience just before they start that clock and bring him up here. But I think it would be fun if his spring performance kind of at least maybe raised the question.
Right. Now it's a shorter spring, so it's maybe a little more difficult for that to happen as if he would have had a regular spring happening. I do think it's I've never heard anybody in the Cubs organization, and I don't know that they would do this, tell us where they think he will play in Major League Baseball. Now, it's in the outfield, but if he comes up right away, are you looking at easing him into a corner position? Is he definitely a center fielder? Would you put him in a corner spot? If he comes up to this team, where does he slot in your outfield this season?
I think he's center field.
Right now their outfield is it's like their infield. It's so fluid that I feel like you could literally put him anywhere that you want to, and he'd be comfortable.
I mean, I'm probably putting him in center,
right?
And
I mean, that's the logical
especially
spot,
because you're probably going to bookmark Suzuki for right field, hopefully every day.
So then, who's in left?
Ian Happ.
Yeah, when Happ is, he's hopefully ready for opening day as long as there's no, setbacks. But he's throwing and hitting in the cage and stuff, so I think his elbow is fine.
Right.
And then just seeing who sticks. I mean, Frazier's not a good fielder, so I think maybe he gets more of a look at DH, but we'll see about that.
Rachel says, I'll eat my hat if Brennan isn't in the show by July at center field. We're going to hold you to that. Clip this.
But, I mean, I think the hope is Brennan shows up and sort of just plants that flag in center field at beautiful, historic Wrigley Field and doesn't move it.
Runs out like Sammy and sticks the flag in center field.
Years. Yeah, exactly. Him and Suzuki, just there you go. That's 2/3 of it taken care of eventually when Brennan comes up.
And the Cubs have been searching for so long for a mainstay in center field. I mean, the last mainstay in center field the Cubs had was Dexter Fowler. So to me, it's this is Brennan Davis's chance to just really become that mainstay there for the next 6-7 years.
By the way, Peter, again, I see, no, Luke, I'm not yanking your chain. It's okay, Peter. We were just joking. We're glad to have you.
We will properly credit Peter if the Cubs signed Correa.
100%.
Similar
as
terms,
first reported
250?
by Peter.
Yes, we will remember that for sure.
Especially if those numbers came in, I would definitely give him credit for that. I love to see the chat people that come back Rachel is on every day.
She is.
She's a loyal viewer, listener,
Absolutely.
watcher.
We noticed that, for sure. We definitely noticed the people who are in every day, so it means a lot.
Robbie. I've seen Robbie before, I believe.
Ferris
is
usually
always
big
good.
in the
Yeah,
comments.
Ferris is always here. Yeah. We've seen Lil Yumper in here before, too. So.
Good question here.
Wait. Oh, yeah. What does CHGO stand for? It is for Chicago, yes.
Yes.
No, not for Chicago Go, though.
Yeah, not
No,
Chicago.
just for
Go.
Chicago.
He says, I assume Chicago Go. It's just,
the network started in Denver. It was DNVR. They just took out, some vowels. And then there's a PHNX in Phoenix, and we are CHGO.
I think Kevin put it well on the, I think the first all CHGO sports pod that they did. It's like our radio call letters.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
There you go. I want to, just because we're talking prospects, another name, just on the pitching side, because you're talking about the lack of that. I just hope that Caleb Killian is on everybody's radar.
Don't make my hair stand up.
Yeah, I'm not sure. He's another one, again, like not positive the timeline. I think he could play a role sometime this year.
I've seen, guys on Twitter that are big on the prospects say that they could see him with the Cubs in mid-season.
Yeah.
I would say I would lean more towards after July 4th, but, we'll see.
Just he pitched in the Arizona Fall League Championship games, 6 perfect innings.
Yep.
And you just look at the stuff, and it's like, this is
there.
a guy.
He was one of the pieces back for KB.
Yep.
Him and Alexander Canario. Canario, mashed for South Bend.
Yeah, he hits bombs.
Whenever he came over last year. So right now, especially now that KB didn't go back to the Giants, I'm just saying it's looking good for the Cubs in the aftermath.
Did you see the Hers video on
Another guy, yeah.
It was his Twitter that put it out, right?
Yeah, he tweeted himself.
He's a good marketer.
I've talked to DJ Hurst before, and he's just for a 19-year-old kid, he's going to be fun to watch at Wrigley one day. He won Pitcher of the Month, I think, it was either July or no, he won Pitcher of the Year, minor league Pitcher of the Year for the Cubs. So he was in Myrtle Beach. I think he was on his way to South Bend towards the end. I could be wrong.
When we saw the most recent first-round pick, Jordan Wicks, pitched in one of the split squad games yesterday. So that was cool to see, kind of just getting him out there, pitched 2 innings, 3 strikeouts.
Did you watch the entire game yesterday? Or both games?
No, I watched a little bit of Hendricks, and then I tuned in when Wicks was in there just because I wanted to see him. But, he's another one of those guys, another, guy that doesn't necessarily bring the velocity, but someone who can move fast because he's kind of, as the Cubs have identified, I know you guys talked with Brendan yesterday, just has that kind of finesse ability, understands his pitches really well, knows how to use them, and, it's kind of just about getting that experience.
Oh, you know what? The game was going on while we were doing the podcast live, and I've seen a freeze frame of a Pete Crow Armstrong going up the wall. Did he make that catch?
I think he just missed it.
Just missed it, because something was about the athletic ability. By the way, I saw Rachel pointing out she lives in London.
Yeah, she's in UK.
The CHGO Cubs podcast is international,
global.
Man.
Yeah.
We're global.
Yeah.
Now if we can pull some Suzuki viewers in.
Yeah. Imagine all the people from Japan that could be tuning into this.
It could be worldwide. We are.
Yeah. But I'm not really, not to get a big, not to get a big head about it, but Cubs fans are worldwide. So
right. Yeah. That's
necessarily
true. No.
surprising.
Yeah, that's true.
That's
true. But she's Rachel's on here every day.
Yeah.
Commenting. She's like one of the team
is
now.
It in London right now?
I think
6
it's
hours
plus
ahead.
8 or 6 or 8, something like that.
Oh, okay. So she's ending her day then, probably. And before she goes to bed, she listens to me and you converse.
Peter wants us to do a live show from Wrigley or from a bar on opening day.
We can hang out at my apartment. Close enough.
I will say that Peter points that out, and that is eventually the path we will be pushing. Is we'll be out doing public podcasts and post-game shows live once we're kind of get our feet underneath us. I don't know if it's going to be opening day or not. I haven't heard that. If that's been answered, I know that's a goal. Eventually,
I only
we'll
have 2 tickets in section 216, but I don't know. Maybe we can squeeze the 3 of us in there and just do it straight from the game. Might be a little loud, but
Ryan's already going to be in there. If I can sneak in with an old press pass or get a new press pass, now we're ready to go.
They know you around there. Can't you just
let you
just
in.
wait? Hey, I'm here.
I could grease some palms if I had to, probably. No, I think that sounds like a lot of fun. I'll be honest with you, I'm hoping it's a warm day if we're going to do that.
Yeah.
Or we're indoors, Murphy's would be a great place to do it.
Oh, yes.
Brickyard would be fun just because it's Brickhouse Tavern, I should say, would be fun.
Maybe Cubby Bear.
What about Rizzo's? They have that great Rizzo's has that retractable glass roof they put in.
Yeah.
Which is that's a really cool space.
That's an underrated bar. No one talks about that one.
No, that's a really nice bar. And I know I remember talking to the owner about it once when I was in there. He's like, yeah, most of our renovation budget was for the retractable glass roof, not just the bar. It's a cool spot. and just right across from Wrigley Field.
Looks
and then
like
there's classics, Bernie's. I mean, you could go anywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Cubby Bear?
Yeah, I guess. Sluggers, perhaps?
Ooh,
Gotta
Slugger.
give a shout out to the folks at Nisei Lounge
Oh, yes.
on Sheffield.
One of the best dives.
Yep.
Yeah.
We just got a super chat.
Oh, super chat.
Super chat alert.
Read it to us.
Hold on.
Hit us with
super
joy.
chat. Sorry, I know you like that, Luke.
I do.
do.
Currently constructed, this team, this is from All Love Here. What's up, All Love Here? All Love Here as well. Currently constructed, this team is a 70-win team. If we don't get Correa or Story, this will be a long year. Us Cubs fans don't want to relive 2013. Not really a question, but I agree.
No, but
wrong.
I wonder
More of a comment, yeah.
where is it with Correa? 10 more?
I would say,
10 is a lot, but
Yeah.
It is, but that's a pretty
I
important
think-
player that really trickles down.
I think he sort of adds to your kind of variability, right? Then it's a question of it's lessening how much you're relying on riskier things to hit, right?
Right.
There's big asks that the Cubs have right now if they want to be competitive. A lot of guys have to take that next step or continue things they did last year or kind of reinvent their career. You had Correa, that's one less
It's five-
spot
it's
where
5 or 6 wins,
you're
right?
guaranteeing a
Or
like
it's
5 to
5 or
6 win
6.
player, and you're not asking somebody else to step
I
up.
would say, he said 70 win. Well, on Fangraphs, before the Suzuki signing, would they predict like 73, 74 wins, something like
right,
that?
so we assume it's up with Suzuki. It would
Right.
certainly be up with Correa.
Right, so I would say
76 right now. I don't know if that.
I would
includes
say
Suzuki
with
or not.
Correa, they could win 85 games. And that's fringe wild card team.
Rachel agrees with Rich. Hey, if you enjoy CHGO, one way to help us continue to grow is to download the PointsBet app. Use the code CHGO when you sign up. Not only do you get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000, but if you make that $50 or more first-time deposit, you get a free CHGO membership. It unlocks all of our web content, and you'll get that free shirt of your choice from the CHGO locker. Again, Ryan Herrera out at Sloan Park. He's working the clubhouse right now. He'll have an article for you, and he'll certainly be writing about the Suzuki introduction out at Sloan Park today in Arizona in Mesa. So some fresh content coming definitely tonight and throughout the weekend, allchgo.com. Any questions, email PointsBet at allchgo.com, and we'll help you out. And in case you missed it, online sign-up is available in Illinois. You can download the PointsBet app right now and register your account start to finish, all from your phone. You're signing up with the fastest sportsbook, easier than ever, and you can start living your bet life in seconds. So what are you waiting for? Once the game starts, don't just bet, live your bet life with PointsBet. Gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. All right, so now we're on to our, you were not here for this.
Oh, yeah.
You missed the sweet and savory bracket,
Oh, I've
Corey.
seen it.
You've seen it, but you weren't able to really soak it in.
As someone who lives in Wrigleyville, what did we miss?
Did we miss an item from Wrigleyville or the ballpark that should have been on the list?
I don't think so. I also told you, Luke, I have a weird thing with this because especially at the ballpark, I go for the grilled hot dog with
too.
the grilled onions
Me too.
every time.
Yes.
I will eat, if I go, I'll eat 100 of them.
Where do
over
they have
course
the
of
grilled
summer.
hot dogs there?
So you have to be careful.
A vendor, and
because
not from a vendor, right?
They used to have carts. No, the vendors only
Yeah.
have the boiled hot dogs.
Right.
If that's your thing, that's up to you.
Right.
In my opinion,
But you're wrong and you're an idiot.
you're wrong and you're missing out on a much better hot dog.
I actually agree with that, but the sound of the vendor
Sure.
popping the hot dog top is one of the sounds of baseball.
Eat what you want to eat, right?
Right.
But there's certain things when you go on the concourse, it'll say grilled Chicago dog. If it doesn't say grilled Chicago dog, buyer beware.
Yeah.
But
now the
for
bison
me,
dogs are also grilled.
I've never tried it.
Oh, I have. They're not bad.
Okay.
But I
I hope
wouldn't have put
they-
it in my top.
We got a
8.
comment here. It says bison dog is the best if they have
There we
it.
go.
It is pretty good. It's worth trying this year.
I will
would
try
try
it.
it once.
Okay. Deal.
All right, so do we have the brackets, Joey? We're down to the final 4. Is that correct?
Yep. I can read off.
I
some
don't
of
have
the
I don't have
results.
the updated brackets.
Okay. So
Cody will read them off.
Cody's going to read them off to us and tell us what we had going. We had the Ballpark Classics region,
Yes.
where we took just our favorite foods from inside the ballpark, and then we had the Wrigleyville region, some specific items, top 8 things that we like to eat outside of Wrigley Field.
Right.
And so we put the first 8 matchups on there. We put the polls out on Twitter. You voted, and then we moved them on. Now we're down to the next matchup, right, that we voted for. What were the results?
So in the one, what is it? It's the Vienna beef hot dog.
The
in
one
the 7 seed. The 1 in the 7, Giordano's was the 7. The hot dog got 56% of the vote over Giordano's to move on.
Vienna beef hot dog moving on despite Corey's distaste for the steamed Vienna beef hot dog.
The grilled ones are Vienna beef as well.
That's true.
So I think that's all.
We're
just counting all hot dogs.
We almost just said hot dogs because Lawrence, who was producing the show the other day, was all upset that I didn't say hot dogs. And I'm like, so you got to put one hot dog. It has to be Vienna beef.
Hot dogs is only in the bleachers, so it's restrictive to folks like me. Yeah, I can't get it.
In the next matchup, we had Bona Beef, the 6th seed, and the batting helmet ice cream. The beef. It was a close one, 54-46, with the beef taking the W here.
Right, and Kyle's grandmother was very happy about that.
Yes, Kyle's grandma.
So beef versus hot dog is the final matchup of the ballpark region to see who advances.
Right, so
the finals.
Final 4 matchup, right?
Beef
on that
versus
side.
Vienna beef dog.
Right.
Vienna beef dog versus the Bona beef.
Yes.
That is a showdown.
It will be.
And very Chicago, my friend, of us to get hot dogs and beef in the matchup.
Okay, moving on to around the Wrigleyville region, we got Big Star Tacos versus the Do Right Donuts.
Wow, and
that's a heavy matchup.
Yeah, that's maybe the matchup of the tournament there. That some people call that their national championship.
Yeah.
Do Right.
And it was Do Right Donuts.
Yes,
70% of the vote.
70%. Nothing against Big Star Tacos. I just prefer the one in Wicker Park.
That's fair.
Yep, and Do Right, man, that's an easy little bite going on into the ballpark.
Do Right's got great coffee, too.
Yeah, get it before you go in the park, and then you get it.
Yeah.
You come out of the park, and you say, you know what? I could go for a donut.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good breakfast sandwiches, too.
I've never had a breakfast
that I have
sandwich
not
there.
tried.
I've only had donuts there.
Really?
Okay, and then finally,
Yowza.
my favorite matchup of this section was the Wiener Circle chocolate shake versus
the
Slice at Demo's. And the Wiener Circle chocolate shake got 63%.
Wow, moving on to face Do Right Donut.
Yes. I hope if you know,
semifinal.
You know. If you know, you know, man. I hope
I think the voters got all this right.
Yeah, I think they did too. Everyone was correct. So now, if we have to choose heading into the weekend, we'll put that poll out again today and tonight. It'll be up for like 20 hours or something like that. Please vote on it. And then we'll have results on Monday letting you know what the national championship is going to be.
Yeah.
Our sweet and savory Wrigleyville Sweet 16 and Savory. How do we call it? Sweet and Savory 16?
Sweet and Savory 16.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. It's tournament time, so I get a little confused. So right now, who would you take? At the top of it, it was the Vienna beef versus Bona beef. If it's us and we're choosing, where are we going?
I go with hot dog. I mean, it's a staple.
Look, if the hot dog's not cutting down the net at the end of this, it's wrong.
Oh, wow.
And
Wow.
fraudulent.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the hot dog.
I would
can't
agree.
beat it.
I would agree that the hot dog beats the Bona beef, and I said many times it's nothing against Bona beef. If it was Portillo's or Al's, that maybe it would be a different conversation.
Need a beef bracket.
Yeah.
If
we had a beef bracket, it might be that might be
CHGO food podcast.
Yeah, that might be in a month or so if the Cubs are off to like an 0-10 start. We'll just do the beef bracket. On the other side, it's Do Right Donuts facing the Wiener Circle chocolate shake. Now, this is difficult. I'm going to say, again, it's Do Right Donut because it's closer to the ballpark. Wiener Circle, while I love it, and the chocolate shake is one of their greatest items, it's a little bit of a walk. And on a cold day, I don't want to go that far. Warm day in the summer, I'll go all that way for the chocolate shake after the game. Do Right Donut, it could be raining and 33 degrees outside. You can go over there and get the blueberry crumble one.
I'm taking Do Right because I go there usually every weekend. Saturday or Sunday, I like to walk over there and get coffee. And
so we should have you on Mondays. So if you had leftover donuts from Do Right,
especially if you got them on Sunday,
you could bring them with you.
Luke is the wheels are. How do I make this work for me?
I think, Joey, what do you think? Mondays with Corey.
Ooh.
Mondays with Corey. It also sounds like to me if you're a big fan of the podcast and you want Cubs analysis off the clock, you should go to Do Right Donuts on a Sunday.
That's right.
Keep your eyes
You might
peeled.
just run into Corey there.
Yeah.
It's like running into Theo at a Starbucks in Wrigleyville.
It's exactly the same.
Yeah. All of a sudden, people will be tweeting out, like, I just saw Corey. He was at Do Right Donuts.
Yeah.
Me and Theo are exactly the same.
Paul Sullivan will be
We got to get out of here, but we got the
tweeted.
updated bracket up here really quickly.
All right, there it is. So that's who you're voting for this weekend.
Vote for the hot dog, folks.
Make sure you vote for the hot dog and Do Right Donuts, in my opinion. Thanks for another great week of the CHGO Cubs podcast. We had a blast. Don't forget, you can always find great Cubs content, all CHGO.com, in our members section. That's what Ryan's working on. Sign up, get the dope merch. We'll see you soon.
Dope merch.
And go Cubs, go.